Alright, so today I'm gonna go over all of the Frenzied Flame incantations, as you could probably tell from the title. But before I did that, I just wanted to make a real quick note about what seal you should use for these spells. Despite what you might think, Frenzied Flame Seal isn't actually that good for Frenzied Flame incantations. And the reason being that Frenzied Flame Seal just gets really low scaling. It only goes up to, I think it's a B scaling in Faith, and it gets C scaling in all the other stats. So unless you're doing some monster build like soul level 500 or something, you're better off using a different seal. I chose Communion Seal with Arcane for this video because the Arcane scaling does actually increase the rate that Madness builds up. It's very slight. They nerfed the hell out of it, which honestly, fair enough. Frenzied Burst was insane. But it's still a bonus that the other seals won't give you, so I would recommend an Arcane Seal if you're going to be doing a Frenzied Flame build, and then maybe just have the Frenzied Flame Seal in your other hand so you can get the bonus. Otherwise, just don't worry about it too much. Frenzied Flame Seal is only really useful if you're a very low or a very high level character. Starting off pretty average with the Flame of Frenzy. This is a very simple, straightforward spell. You just kind of create an area of damage at like mid-range. That's the way I think of it. It's just a horizontal line that's going to hurt. You can kind of use it the same way you would use a Swift Glintstone or a Fireball or a Bestial Sling or something at that medium range when the two of you are circling around each other trying to figure out what's going on. That's a good time for Flame of Frenzy. Other than that, it's very unremarkable. One thing that I don't see talked about is that it has very good range downward. For some reason, whenever you're angling it at someone below you, the tracking just becomes insane. Uninjurable Frenzy has the same thing where they can shoot downward with like pinpoint accuracy. What else is there to mention? The closer you are, the more damage you'll get. It's sort of like a shotgun. If you're further away, it's difficult to land more than a couple of the flames, but that's honestly not a big concern. This is a very cheap spell. You can kind of just throw it out whenever you're circling around each other, like I said. Or you can do it off a ledge for some surprise kills. I don't think it's very good at that. I think Uninjurable Frenzy kind of supersedes this spell in every way, but at the very least, this one has the cheapness going for it. Speaking of which, let's talk about Uninjurable Frenzy. I think this is the spell where it really gets interesting, because it's basically just the Flame of Frenzy over and over and over and over, just an endless spew of those flames, and it changes how you use the spell quite a lot. This is now just a death cannon that you want to get relatively close to someone, as close as you can without getting hit, and then just go to town on them. You will very feasibly kill someone if you get an uninterrupted perfect blast of this. It does a lot of damage. It builds up madness very quickly, and once that madness procs, they're basically dead, right? There's no way for them to get out. They're going to take like a dozen more hits from the fire. You're going to keep walking towards them slowly. It's just over. The only real downside to this spell is that it's a very high commitment to use. Not only because you're going to drain like your entire FP bar doing this, but also because you can't actually exit the spell quickly. There's this little animation that plays every time the spell ends where you kind of tilt your head back, you erupt the flames in all directions, and then a second afterwards, then you can move. So if you use this spell and your target gets out, or there's someone with like a bow or a sorcery ready to blast you into the next century, you just kind of have to take it. You're not getting out. As soon as you cast the spell, one of you is getting blasted, and you just have to pray that it ain't you. No, but seriously, this is a very decent spell. It's a gimmick. I will say that If you know what to look for, then you're probably not going to get hit by this spell. But good for you, you're an invader, so your average opponent doesn't have a lot of brain cells in them. So just go ham with Uninjurable Frenzy. Don't let me stop you. Alright, the snooze hour is over. Frenzied Burst is on your screen now. It's easily the best spell in all of the Frenzy Incantations. I would use this on pretty much any Faith build that I run, because it's an excellent long range option. It's not got too much damage on it. You might hit for like 300, 600, but it's very fast, and the range is literally as far as your lock-on, which is an insane distance to be able to hit someone in this game. You can be like halfway across the map, the host and their phantoms haven't even seen you yet, and you can hit them with Frenzied Burst. You can be at the mid-range, just trading projectiles, and you can hit them with Frenzied Burst, because it comes out very quickly. Well, I mean, the animation is relatively slow, but the projectile travels so fast, it's honestly a bit deceptive. You can even be at close range, like someone's sprinting towards you, and they still have to respect the Frenzied Burst or get hit, because it's not something you can easily dodge. You can't really strafe around it at close range. You can at long range, but at that point, it's more a question of, do you see the person that's casting Frenzied Burst? This used to be even better. Getting hit by Frenzied Burst used to just kill you, because it would infinite, because it instantly built up your madness. As it currently stands, you need like 2 or 3 hits of Frenzied Burst to build up madness, which is still very fast. That's like the fastest you can build up madness, full stop. It's still decent, it's just not anything to write home about. You're probably only going to hit a couple of these before the host turns around and gets your ass. The exception is, of course, if they're busy with PvE and you're just being a nuisance from a distance, then this spell may as well be top tier, because it's going to constantly interrupt them, it's going to constantly be doing that damage, even through shields. It's going to get that little bit of chip, it's going to put that status on them, it's going to make them scared. This is just the classic pressure spell. That's how I think of using it, it's just pressure. I might be like a rugby field's distance away, but I am still pressuring your ass. You still need to listen to these audio cues and glance at the invader every now and then. It's very good at just forcing people to move, forcing people to engage with you. I kind of think of it as the spiritual successor to the Millwood Great Bow, if you remember how that was used outside of like the gravity shit. Just hitting someone who's standing still or fighting PvE, getting their attention. I like the spell a lot. I think I'm rambling on, but it's just a very good spell. Okay, bring it with you. If there's one thing you take away from this video, it's to bring Frenzied Burst on all of your incantation builds, because this is basically the only long-range option you have. It's very good. And from the dizzying heights of being an actual, real, viable spell, we now have 2 more to deal with. First on the list, Inescapable Frenzy. It's a grab attack. You hold your hands to your face, then you grab the opponent. It's got very small range, but if that grab connects, you will get mediocre damage. It's honestly not that much of a payoff. This is a very difficult spell to land, and when it's not bugged, it only does like 1000 damage. So, you know, you'll maybe get through the majority of someone's health bar, and then they'll just run away and heal, because there's not a lot of actual stun on that animation. They get out of the grab animation at around the same time you do, so it's very easy for them to just get away. Even if there isn't another person pressuring you, which there usually is in invasions, you still have to actually chase this person down and roll catch them. You haven't won the fight yet. Now, when this spell is bugged, then it just fucking kills people. And I say when this spell is bugged because I'm sure that there's always going to be some sort of inescapable frenzy bug. They've tried to remove the bugs on this spell. In case you didn't know, it used to be as simple as holding a weapon in your other hand. Now it's gone to the real complicated maneuver of two-handing your seal. I don't know why it's so difficult for them to make this spell function. They had the same problems with Sacred Flame in Dark Souls 3. They had similar bugs to that kept popping up, but they eventually fixed those. I don't know if I'm confident that Inescapable Frenzy will ever be fixed. It looks like Elden Ring has a much harder time tracking what attributes belong to which weapon. There's a lot of bugs like Royal Knight's Resolve and Pulley Crossbow. What's it called? Flames, Deadly Sin, the one where you light yourself on fire, whatever it's called. There's a lot of bugs that are in that same theme of the game, just forgetting what belongs to what weapon and spell. I think this is going to be something we deal with for a while. But getting back on track, what is the payoff to Inescapable Frenzy? If it's bugged, it's very good, right? But how do I get to that payoff? What do I have to do to grab someone? The answer is pray. But if you want a longer answer, I found that setting it up with Blood Boon, spraying the fire all over the floor, and then doing Inescapable Frenzy afterwards functioned really well. It made people want to be aggressive and come towards me, which let me grab them. If you just cast the spell straight up, most people won't get grabbed, because they'll expect a Flame of Frenzy or a Frenzied Burst, and they'll just keep strafing around and waiting to dodge that, and then when they see you grab, that's it, the game's over. They know that you're going for some stupid grab cheese, and they're never going to fall for it, unless they're actually a troglodyte that has gained access to the internet through a time portal or something. But yeah, you can put on the Poise Flask. That's what I did. It doesn't help that much because you still only get a very brief window to land it. You can really only land this spell against straight swords, daggers, curved swords, weapons that have very low poise damage and won't feasibly knock you out. But even if it does land, sometimes it just doesn't work. They can lag it out similar to a backstab and just not take damage. I hope we have footage of it. I really hope I have footage of that to put in this video. It's just stupid. The spell isn't good, okay? Just don't bother hurting yourself like this. If you want to take pain on demand, use the Lifesteal Fist Ash of War. It's a similar concept, except it's also shit, but at least you don't have to two-hand your talisman and run around like an idiot. At least you can still have a fist weapon to use. Howl of Shabiri is deceptive to me, because at first glance you think this is going to be like an AoE spell, like Grail's Roar or Wrath of Gold or something like that, where you just deal madness. And to save you a lot of time, do not use it like that. I'm begging you, don't try to use Howl of Shabiri aggressively, you will die. It doesn't have any stagger, any damage, any real range, and it locks you in this animation forever. What Howl of Shabiri is really about is this buff that it applies to you. It gives you like 25% extra damage, but in return you take 30% more damage, and it's also very short lasting, it's only like 20 seconds. I don't think it's worth it personally. I think if you really want to buff yourself, just take Flame Grant Me Strength. You'll only gain like 15% damage versus 25%, but you won't have to turn yourself into this little glass boy that's gonna instantly get annihilated by anything that touches him. A lot of my experience with this spell is I cast it to try and use it offensively, and then the buff applies to me, and then I get punished and pretty much get instantly deleted. Which sounds like a problem from me, which it absolutely is. I wasn't using this right when I was recording, but at the same time, when am I supposed to use this? When am I going to do the buff that's very short lasting, has this long ass animation on it too? When am I going to do that? When will I have the time? And when will it be worth doing this instead of Flame Grant Me? Those are the questions I have. When am I going to have the right time to use this and then hit someone in the next like 10 seconds because I've lost half my buff doing the actual animation, you know? The only other niche use for this is inflicting madness on yourself, but even then it's not a lot of madness built up, and the reward for inflicting madness on yourself is pretty much non-existent. The only reward you can get is if you have the Black Dumpling, in which case you get a slight damage boost. So you could use like spam Howl of Shabiri and then activate your Hyper Mode with 35% damage. Which is not a lot. It's just not worth bringing. I would recommend putting this one in your box and just leaving it there forever. Unless someone can prove me wrong, I don't think there's a good use for this offensively. And when it comes to buffing, there are better options available. Just don't bother. That's all I have, just don't bother. But anyway, that's going to be all there is for today. There's not a lot of spells in the Frenzy school. I hope I did them justice, if you can even call it justice for most of these spells. I have a bit of a vendetta against them. I need to be a little kinder to them. But anyway, I made this video because of someone leaving a comment on the previous one, asking me to do Frenzied Flame Incantations and Elden Stars. I will get to Elden Stars eventually. I think I'll have to do one big video with all the uncategorized spells, you know, the Erd Tree Incantations, the aspects of the Crucible, that sort of thing. But that's a while in the future, if it even does happen. So that's all. Thank you for watching, and stick your finger in your ear right now. Go on. It's all greasy and full of earwax. You know you want to. I'm telling you, it's a great idea. You should totally do it.